Oof, I Well, as an American, I could say that you were failing at that miserably. Don't worry about sounding like me and Josh. Sound like you. Oh, I'll probably always sound like a Midwestern hick, so. Although, I have been accused of sounding like I'm from Jersey, which is weird, because that's one of the few places I haven't lived. Midwestern, honestly. But you get a lot of that in the Dakotas, so it still sounds Midwestern to me. Well, it might also be an Australian thing, but you get a lot of it in Canada too, in the northern Midwest. I forgot I was gonna make green tea. I have been I have been either cooking or washing dishes since 8 a.m. and it is now 2 p.m. So I am enjoying my sit down for a minute. I have two global mutes. And I guess I have like three global mutes. Because I got the one that's directly on the headset, got my hotkey, and then I got the one that's on the screen. So it should be global here. So yeah, it's global. It comes up on the screen that I muted the mic. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a completely different microphone. I haven't in a while. Uh, well, stuttering. You could try increasing your virtual memory. That might help. Your page file or whatever you want to call it. It's just using up all your CPU. That's actually really surprising. I know my wife uses a lot of Zoom, but she does it on her phone, and she complains that she has to charge her phone 2 or 3 times a day. And she has the Note 10 Plus, so it's not a small battery on that phone, but it is a lot of screen real estate. Um, do you? What was with Zoom? Do you have the ability to control the quality? Can you dial back the quality on your end of the video? You know, all that cooking I did and I forgot to eat. Okay, so is Nishant joining us today? And that he wanted to do LPIC on the next show, but obviously we need to pick a backup topic now. If you want to do that, I'm cool with it. Okay. Let me. I forgot to check the settings in OBS. Properties, defaults. Let me switch away and switch back. Okay. Okay. Say something, guys.
Hello.
Something, something,
Something.
All right.
something.
They should be hearing you now.
Okay.
Can you hear him now, Londoner?
Hmm.
You guys got to say something else.
Still here. Just waiting
Something
to hear and
else.
see if we have
Perfect.
audio going.
Something else.
Awesome. All right. Well, I still haven't watched the third episode of Doctor Who yet, and I know the other one comes. The next one comes out tomorrow, so
I
hopefully
still
I'll get a
haven't
chance
watched the
to.
second season.
Ah,
Okay, Londoner says we're good.
awesome.
All right. Okay, yeah. Did anyone have any other topics to introduce in terms of what we can do for the show?
In the mintCast folder, there's a topic ideas document that I made.
Okay.
I'm just going to put everything there, and if anyone has an idea, they just list them there and narrowing it down that way.
Or it sounds like your audio just got really loud.
Mine, I just moved closer to the microphone,
Oh, okay.
but I can just. It's very nice. GNOME has this built-in. So in the GNOME settings menu, there's a slider for.
And you just cut out completely.
Is it too quiet now?
Yes.
Yeah, way too quiet now.
This should be a good sweet spot.
That's not bad.
Okay.
Little dim.
Yeah.
Then this should be a good sweet spot.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's better.
I'm going to be facing this way. So.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And then suddenly we don't talk.
Yeah.
We could
All right.
do something with the state of gaming on Linux. Maybe talk to Bo, see if he wants to join us.
Yeah. That would work. I got a text from a friend yesterday. I'm trying to look at it here. But he was thinking about picking up a Asus ROG Strix GeForce RTX 3080 10GB card. So I looked it up on Newegg. And I believe, let me
It's an
make sure I'm
expensive
quoting.
card.
Oh, it blew my mind. I don't think I spent this much on my entire system.
Right?
Yeah, $1,700 at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yep,
There's a reason I don't have a new graphics card.
same here. Still on a RX 480. Getting a little long in the tooth, but yeah, I'll live with it.
Yeah, pretty much. Hold on, LSPCI. I can't even remember what my graphics card is on this one. Radeon RX 550.
Yeah, it's a capable card.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to do any, hardcore gaming or anything like that, it's perfectly fine. I think I'm running a 460 in my computer up front.
Heck, this thing is like 8 years old or something, and it's still sitting at like $230.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, I picked up the 460 for the home theater PC up front for, I think it was like $60 brand new off eBay. Before all this, of course.
I wouldn't mind getting something a little newer, a little flashier, but I do mind the prices right now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know when it's going to end, but it doesn't look like it's in sight anytime soon.
Probably not. And with the way the crypto market's going, yeah, definitely not anytime soon.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised to find that, considering I work for a trash company, that so many of my coworkers were actually into crypto. I had no idea. But a few of them were standing around the other day talking about their investments. I mean, it's just everywhere right now.
Yeah, well, especially with the way Shiba Inu got so popular so quickly, and it did make a couple people millionaires right off the bat.
Yeah, that was the one in particular that they were discussing.
Yeah. But it's all gambling. Sooner or later, everybody gets lucky. Well, sooner or later, somebody gets lucky gambling. But most people
Right.
just, get the unlucky.
Yeah.
But if somebody didn't get lucky every now and again, no one would do it.
Right. Yeah, I thought about it, but boy, that money comes awful hard. I hate to watch
Yeah,
it disappear.
yeah, and it's definitely, you got to have the extra money that you're willing to completely lose to be able to do that.
Yeah.
My brother started doing soccer bets a few years ago, and he sometimes when he would so it's not for money, it's for like the thrill of it. And every now and a while when he would win a reasonable larger amount of money, not that much, he would say he would put it back into it. So for a while he would use that money to place new bids, not bids,
Yeah.
bets. Yeah,
Yeah.
bets. And so that's a kind of reason, because when you just keep spending your money and not getting anything back, it's after a while you have when you look back how much you spend. I mean, he justifies it as he doesn't spend that much on it, but he justifies it as it's a hobby. It's not about the it's not about winning a lot of money. Just like it elevates the experience of like so it's a proper way of betting. And but I'm pretty sure that he's lost more money than he won overall since he started. But for example, this year he might be in a positive,
Yeah,
which is it's nice if you can pull it off.
yeah.
Sure. I think that's a large part of gambling in general for people that kind of get the high or the adrenaline rush off of, the high stakes and the money,
Hmm.
Yeah,
you know.
I hear about people, putting their entire life savings into Shiba Inu on the hope that they're gonna, blow up and get rich, and it's like, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, probably not the greatest idea.
I mean, there's a chance that yeah, you'll do well, and the money will come back to you, but it's extremely unlikely.
Right.
Whenever someone wins, someone else has to lose. So how is it with crypto? Because if it gets more valuable and some people get rich, someone else must be losing money on it.
Yes, and
And
it,
and no,
it's
because
it,
it.
it's a buy and sell thing. So
Mhm.
if I buy it at a penny and then I hold on to it for 6 months and someone else is willing to buy it for $1, then I made 99 cents and they're hoping that it'll go up again and they'll make some money doing it.
Mhm.
So eventually, yeah, somebody has to
Yes, but
lose.
but if everyone's sitting on money, that doesn't increase the value. Only circulation increases the value.
Well, circulation doesn't necessarily increase the value. Scarcity
But-
can increase value as well.
So and sitting on money can increase the scarcity of it.
Mm,
Mm.
yes, it can, but in this case, the scarcity is being increased by what's called crypto burns. And so, what the creators are doing is they're holding on to a very large portion of the overall amount of Shiba Inu in this case, and then they send it to dead wallets where it can no longer be accessed. So the overall availability becomes a lot less and the value goes up due to scarcity.
Is there a limit of how much if it can be mined?
It can't be mined.
Yes, but is there an upper limit? For example, with Bitcoin, there's a limit that when they reach that, there's like nobody
Yes,
can.
it depends on how the cryptocurrency is set up. Like with Bitcoin, there is a finite amount, and I think every year or no, it's every certain number of blocks that come in. Um, those blocks have X amount with them, and then every time a certain number of those blocks are completed or hashed or whatever, um, it the block amount gets cut in half. So eventually, yes, there will be an upper limit of Bitcoin and no more will be available.
What do you mean by dead wallets? Is it
Dead
essentially
wallet,
gone?
yeah, dead wallets are wallets that no one has access to. They're still valid endpoints. They're still valid receivers, but there's no way for anybody to get into that wallet and send those coins elsewhere.
But if there's an upper limit, does it really make sense to essentially destroy that money?
Yeah, if it increases scarcity, which is what they're trying to do with Shiba Inu to force the price up. They're also attempting to increase utility, which can also increase the value. But their main goal right now is to get the buzz out there, which is what the high volume did, and then increase scarcity by doing burn-offs, but also increase interest by doing those burn-offs. And so then more people are trying to buy, and that pushes the price up more.
Not convoluted at all, right?
You think that's convoluted? Take a look at the stock market sometime.
Yeah. That's where my 401k resides.
Yeah, but somebody else controls that.
You bet.
What types of crypto are there? I know there are Bitcoin is proof of work, and I think it's Ethereum is proof of stake. What is proof of stake exactly?
Oh gosh. Is Ethereum proof of stake? I'm not sure that it is. I'd have to look. Proof of work is one thing. Proof of stake is.
I'm on Wikipedia. By selecting validators in proportion to their quality of holdings in the associated cryptocurrency. Do not incentivize extreme amounts of energy consumption. The first functioning.
But there's also there's another one. Proof of what is it? Where you hold it and that automatically generates more.
Proof of value? I know there is a third one, but I don't know either.
Hold on. Cosmos.
Yeah, this could probably be a show unto itself, really.
Yeah.
And I would be awkwardly silent throughout it.
It is
Like this.
staking. It's another staking. But
Yeah, who
essentially,
didn't?
you're holding on to it, and it just slowly accumulates what's the equivalent of interest.
Crypto dividends.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I wouldn't mind the proof of work um, coins going away, so I could get a new graphics card. I'm not really in a hurry. I just want to switch to an
Well,
AMD card. My NVIDIA one is working fine.
like Dogecoin is a proof of work.
So is Bitcoin.
Yeah, but they're all different levels of difficulty too. So it is proof of work and proof of stake.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that Nishant will not be joining today.
I have no
So,
idea. Somebody should ping him.
yeah, I'm guessing he said he was going to fill out the innards with LPIC, but I don't know.
I think that what I told him to do it by the next show. So I think he might do it by next week. But I also did say that since his exam is in March, then we can cover it anytime before March, and it would also be convenient to have Leo on the show. So if we can get Leo on the show at a later time, maybe it would make sense to cover it later and not next week.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another one I'll be silent on as well. I don't have much to add on that topic. So, Yeah. So we just need to determine where we're going.
But yeah, you're never going to get rid of proof of work. I mean, even if Bitcoin were to max out tomorrow, there'd just be another proof of work coin created.
Mm. What's up with other people who are technically still hosts on mintCast but haven't been on for a while? For example, Josh, and is Bo still
Um,
host?
yeah, technically.
Mhm.
Mike is also listed. I'm not sure about him.
Mike has pulled himself from the Discord, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to be in the Crowbar Kernel Panic Discord, but I don't see it anymore. Did they boot me?
You got the band hammer?
Quite possibly. Or was it a subset of another one?
It's the tough part, right? There's a lot of cross pollination here.
Yeah.
I had an idea a while back. I was listening to, I think, Linux Unplugged, and they were talking about how on Matrix you can sort of federate different servers. So it would be like not a server. I think it's a server, but you would have a larger server, and in that you would have rooms or groups. Or maybe it's a group, and in the group there are servers.
Yeah. You mean
So would it make
subdivided?
so would it make sense to federate shows that are kind of related, like mintCast, Crowbar Kernel Panic, and maybe Linux User Space?
Well, user space. Are you talking about within Discord?
No, I was not necessarily. It was just a thought because in Discord you cannot f- do this properly. Other than and obviously, I'm not talking about a shared server, but if I'm not, well, I was thinking about Matrix, but not many people seem to be using Matrix. At
No.
least not in the Mincast. Sometimes I see someone writing in the Mincast group for a Matrix from Matrix.
It seems like all the federated stuff. I mean, that's really where you're going to find the Linux people and more the,
Mm,
you're not going to get to the mainstream people. It's
mm,
still just not
mm.
convenient.
What's kind of interesting for me is why do Linux users like Telegram so much? Because I think the backend of Telegram is not open source.
I
Only the
think because
client.
it promotes itself as being, private to whatever degree. I don't know.
Mm, I mean,
I guess
I'm
Crowbar
only
Kernel Panic is like completely disassociated themselves from us.
Do they have uh, their own room now, or whatever you want to call it, channel?
Well, they had their own channel, but yeah, I'm not a part of it anymore.
Okay. No, distro hoppers kind of did the same thing, right? Weren't they initially under the mintcast umbrella?
Yeah, but I'm still in their Discord room.
Okay. That's interesting. I wonder if that was just maybe a mistake or something when they were moving it over.
Eh,
I don't think it was a personal slight.
I do.
Do you?
I take it as a personal slight.
Uh-oh. Bo and Josh, if you're listening, Joe takes it personal.
I do. I take it extremely personal.
Oh, man. Watch out. Yeah. So, I don't want to give away spoilers on the roundtable, but do we think maybe putting a call out for more people?
Maybe one more.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 is enough to get on with.
Yeah, yeah. I've been listening to some destination links lately, and I think there's 4 permanent hosts there. And sometimes when there's a guest, they're interviewing. There's 5 people. So I think 4 people might be just the right amount of people for a podcast, because even Linux user space started out with 4 people, and I enjoyed it way more than uh, as opposed to now when there's only Dan and Leo. So, whereas of course there's the fact that not everybody is available for each show.
Uh, the other thing is most of us, all of us on the show right now are dabblers. We're dabblers in Linux. We're not hardcore, die-hard, in the wool server guys or anything like
Mm.
that.
Maybe in a way that's good because of the image of the show, it's supposed to be for everyone.
Right.
It is.
But it might be nice to have one guy that was.
It's
Or
nice
now.
to have. It would be nice to have a Leo. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
somebody equally knowledgeable on the show. Or that
Right.
equally is embedded on the show.
Because we definitely need someone that can handle, say, the live stream if Joe's not here.
I could. I'm not sure how
You guys can do
I'm,
that easy enough. I mean, it's 5 minutes of work on OBS.
mm. In order to be able to browse and also have the Discord window broadcasting, do I need a second monitor, or can I just do it on my laptop?
You can do it on your laptop.
Okay, because if I had to do it on the desktop, I wouldn't have a webcam.
You can do it very easily, but you have a cell phone and
Yeah, and there's
Droid Cam. I'm
Droid
using
Cam.
Droid Cam right now.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so it's good that you've picked up on the audio editing so quickly, Norbert, because that certainly solves that.
well, it's 8 years of video editing experience, but this was my
Right.
first time of touching anything that's only audio, and I was
Right.
surprised. I was surprised how easy it was using Audacity, because from what I've seen of Audacity previously, it was a bit confusing because in a video editing software, even if you're dealing with audio tracks, you can just splice them up and then track them around. But here you cannot just do just well, I think you could just it's more restrictive as to how you can move around the audio segments and tracks around. But then I realized that it's not that big of a deal because you don't really need to move them that much around as you would on a video editing program.
Right.
So,
It's just good
yeah.
that we have, another person that can do it that's actively on the podcast. So it gives us a little redundancy.
Well, we're down to one.
Nichan says he's
Joe, come on now. You don't like the audio or edit audio?
Well, I can do it, and I don't mind doing it, but I prefer not to.
Right.
well, I have no problem with doing it for a while now.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nishant said he's out for today.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I did want to show you guys these.
Oh, nice.
I
USB.
made these. Just some. I made
can you
like
show-
6 of them, and
Can you
then
show that
one
again?
double.
I had my what is it? Is it
There's battery
Yes.
banks.
Yeah.
well, what? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Very nice.
3D printed.
Yeah. Oh, the casing's 3D printed. I had some old 18650s sitting around, and I ordered a whole bunch of the little circuit boards.
Mm.
Let me see. I should have some around here somewhere. I don't see them right this second. But yeah, I made like 6 or 8, something like that. Just
Nice.
putz around and do something with. Do a little bit of
Much more
soldering.
convenient. Yeah. And kind of fit in your pocket kind of deal, because that's the battery make I have. Looks like a whiskey flask.
Yeah, I
And
have.
it's a little.
I have one like that, and then those are actually better than these because these have like a 1 amp max output, so they're good for smaller things like the light on my bike or charging up my Bluetooth headsets. But I use one of the bigger USB-C ones for like my cell phone, and it'll do super fast charging.
Yeah, I think this one has a 2.1 amp slot on it, but it's not quite as convenient to carry around as those would be. So
Yeah.
yeah, light on a battery or on a bicycle. That's a good idea.
Well, I didn't want to be constantly, using double A's or triple A's. And I do have one that's a rechargeable, but it's good for like, maybe 1, maybe 2 bike rides.
Yeah.
So it doesn't last that long. So one of these, I can use for like a week or 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'd have to hit you up.
these glow in the dark.
Ah, nice.
This doesn't, but it's 20,000
Yeah,
milliamp
I'll go grab my
hours.
other ones.
At
Since we're
at times, I would be wicked enough to have it together with my phone and slide it both of them into the same pocket in my jeans. And
Oh man.
yeah, and still, I mean, rarely, but it just happened this week, and still have the headphones coming out of them.
Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah,
to have
yeah,
going on
yeah.
in your pocket.
It
It's
it
like
was I had to leave for somewhere, and I realized I haven't charged my phone, so I just picked this up, and I didn't bring a back a backpack, so I just put them in. It is my jeans have a fairly large pocket, but I suppose it was very noticeable.
yeah, this will fit in my pocket, but not comfortably, and it's heavy. And
It
it
looks
does. I use this as a portable power supply for my soldering iron because this thing will do 20 volts.
oh wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
It's a
can
sweet
totally
shirt, by the way, Joe. I like
thank
it.
you, thank you. My wife finds
I
all
can
my shirts for me.
Nice.
I can imagine you carrying the soldering iron everywhere you go.
Yeah, I might put it in my go bag, maybe. I admit nothing.
Addicted to soldering on this episode of.
Can I say I
The
love
bi-weekly
soldering?
solderings.
I'd say there's worse vices to have by far.
Yeah,
So what do we want to have as a, well, I guess backup topic, but it might become the primary topic soon.
if you guys want to do fragmentation, then I
Mhm.
will get in where I fit in. But
Mm.
yeah,
We were discussing the fragmentation of and the GTK theming uh, stuff a few weeks back, so it might tie into that well.
It
What
could.
what was the last time the fragmentation came up as a topic?
I think
So
it's
when
been an
doesn't it?
extremely long time. If
Mm.
well, we've talked about distros and distros splitting off of distros and distros based on different things, but even that's been a really
Mm.
long time.
Mm.
Fragmentation would be a relatively new topic for
Mm.
us. So yeah,
Mm.
On mintCast for sure.
Yeah.
The other podcasts, it comes around. I'll put it
Mm.
that way.
And also because this isn't a topic of what we use on or what we, but it's opinion based. But we could try not doing the format where everyone lists their opinions that we discuss. It could be like more of an unscripted discussion, roundtable discussion. Because
Yeah,
I think a topic like this, it would be most of us could say a lot about this just
the only reason
on
we
the
do
spot.
it the way that we're doing it with the whole, going from person to person is because we use the notes and then we
Mm-hmm.
put our different talking points on there, so it just kind of ends up that way. We
Mm-hmm.
can do it where it's more natural, but I
Mm-hmm.
still like the talking points on there.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if we do get lost or something, we have something to fall
Mm-hmm.
back on.
Yeah, because for example, I noticed it with the tablet topic. Well, it was mostly two of us talking, but at the end, it turned into a more natural discussion anyway.
Yeah,
So maybe everyone could write their talking points for themselves and not on the public show, not on the show notes itself for something like this fragmentation.
maybe.
Mm.
And then transfer them to it afterwards. Okay, possibly.
Or
I
because
really want them there as a backup just in
yeah,
case it doesn't start
okay,
to
but
flow.
if we put them in the show notes, it has an arbitrary order in which we put them in. So that's what I would like to avoid for this topic. To
Okay.
not
I
have a, or maybe we could just create a table and have columns for everyone, so
Well,
it wouldn't be that.
I will let you figure out the innards
Okay.
then.
Okay.
Because if I do it, I'm going to fall back on what I know. So if you want to make
Mm-hmm.
the innards, make the innards.
I do that anyway. I
Okay.
just usually bring up a few bullet points that I want to touch on in a text editor, and I open up that during the show and kind of just riff off of it, you know? Not that I speak a whole lot on any subject in particular, but yeah.
Delegating is so much fun.
Yeah, you go do it.
It's like being at work,
There you
except
go.
much more relaxed.
Uh, you in a management position, Joe?
Quasi management position. So I'm doing a lot of things that a manager does, but I don't get a manager's pay.
Yeah.
I'm technically a team lead.
Honorary title, huh?
Yeah, well, I started my team. I mean, literally, my team was me, and then I got more people and trained them on how to do all the things that I did, and yeah, it kind of grew from just me to me and like 9 other people.
Gotcha.
And it's
'Cause-
hilarious when everybody's out and I'm the only one there, and they're like, "How is everything still getting done?" It's like, "'Cause I'm really, really good at this shit."
So you are in the tech industry, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
fintech, financial technologies.
gotcha. Makes sense.
Mm. So I just created a table and with 5 columns for Joe, Tony, Norbert, George, and Jishan, and these columns end up really narrow when I make 5 of them. So maybe we could just do the same thing that we did, but consciously not care about the order of in which we put the talking points in.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it goes anyway, regardless of the order. You know, when people start speaking on a subject, everyone just kind of,
Yeah.
waits for
Mm.
one to finish and then someone else
Yes.
interjects. So,
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Let me look, I'm looking. Oh, you already deleted
Oh,
it.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I put it back. These are too narrow.
It's pretty narrow.
Mm.
Why don't you reduce the size?
Size of what?
The font.
It's at a well, if I align it to the left, there's not much of a padding here, but there's a large margin of on the page itself. So maybe we could try to decrease that.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Well, then we would have to and keep zooming into it. So maybe we just should do
It's not a big deal.
the usual list that we do, or we could just avoid writing whole sentences and just write bullet like
Yeah,
talking points with a couple
let's
of words.
let's try this for now,
Okay,
and if it doesn't work, we
so
can change it later.
9, and I wonder if I turn on bullet points and decrease the margin for rows to something like this. Hold on. Mm, to something like this. This
Yeah.
could work. Yeah, this could work. Yep. Okay. Let's try this for him.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Mm. I guess the order I put the names in is also arbitrary because this is how we ended up doing the greetings in our first episode, and the wanderings, and this is the order our name ended up in the opening of the
I think that's mostly because I
original
just, start filling out my bi-weekly wanderings first.
Yeah, but it also makes sense because because you're the main host. So
Well, you guys are main hosts too now,
okay.
Well,
right?
that's not a good thing.
Oh, well, let me rephrase that. You are the welcome to mintCast guy. So you have
Uh,
privileges.
did
Yeah.
you want to give that a shot?
I'm not sure. Yeah. I would have to be doing the streaming as well.
Joe, that smile and the stroking of
Yeah.
the beard. It's
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. I don't have the webcam views maximized, but I can imagine.
Yeah.
I could also imagine the relief you would feel if you could have someone else do the streaming.
Just
Full
remember,
time.
Norbert, delegation. Delegation.
Well,
Yeah.
at this point, it's like, I'm the last guy left from the people that I started with. So, how long is my motivation gonna last?
That is what I'm concerned about right now. Very, very concerned about.
Oh,
We're not that bad of a company, Joe.
huh? I couldn't hear what you said. What'd you say?
We're not that bad of a company.
You're not. You're not. I enjoy
Yeah.
hanging out with you guys, and I'll keep doing this for a while yet. But I don't know.
There will come a day.
There will come a day.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a big time sink, you know.
It does eat a lot of time.
Hmm.
And my Linux projects haven't been very expansive in like the last year or so.
Mm-mm.
So
But
That's really the difficult part, you know, if you're, I don't know, like myself, you know, homeowner, father, all these other things, you can relate. And you just, at the end of the day, there's just not enough time to get into a bunch of Linuxy things. And then what do you have to talk about come showtime?
yeah,
well,
like
for me,
yesterday I had to
Mhm.
get a window replaced because one got blown in from a storm that came through.
Oh
And
my.
then I got some foundation work in that same corner of the house that's going to have to get done. And I got to figure out how to finance that shit.
The biggest problem of it all. I'm taking out seconds and thirds, folks.
Well, I might do a liquidity. It's not, it's kind of a second mortgage, but it's a credit line based on the
Yeah.
difference of what I owe to what the house is worth.
Right, equity line of credit
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
So, but it's still another way that it's possible to lose the house if I can't pay it.
Yeah, defaulting turns out to be no good no matter how you go about it.
Yeah. But it's still better interest rate than, trying to get a loan for it.
Or worse yet, throwing everything on credit cards. I've seen that
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Depends on the credit card. If you can keep up with the payments, that's one thing. But if you're just paying off interest each time, then that's not worth it either.
Yeah.
And
No, as
then
someone that got into credit issues early on in life, I have a hard and fast rule that if it goes on the credit card, it gets paid off that month.
that's
Period.
my preference. That's why I only have a credit card with a $1,500 spending limit on it. It's to
Good idea.
increase my overall credit, but to prevent me or anybody from, maxing out all of my credit and making it impossible to pay back anything more than interest.
Right. Yeah.
Which
Once you get
is,
down to minimum payments, you're in it for the long haul.
yeah, which is, the goal of the credit card companies is to get you to that point because that's how they make money on the long term.
Oh, right. Yeah. Absolutely. That's how they got me when it used to be legal. I don't think they do it anymore, but when I went to college for my 1 year, they had booths up in the quad where these credit companies would come and set up and then just, bring you over. And they're giving kids that, don't have any financial management skills these huge credit lines. And what do? You go out and yeah, I can
Buy a
get that. I can get
TV.
this. Yeah. Everything's great. That's how I bought my first computer. Yeah, that was not a good time.
And then you try to pay it back and it's just spinning your wheels.
Right. Yeah.
It's
That's
like
what caused
college
me to
loans.
drop out.
I mean, I see that with my college loans. I keep paying and paying and paying, and it keeps not coming down, not coming down, not coming down. Well, until, the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, seriously, you end up paying barely more than the interest,
Mm-hmm.
and what the hell do you do?
Right.
Actually, one year
Doesn't
they took money out of because I got the graduated payment plan, and so like the first year they took extra money out of my tax return because I hadn't paid off all the interest on the
Oh,
loan.
that's brutal.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you see it in the home loan space too. When you're looking at these 30-year fix loans and they front load the interest. I mean, I've been in this house for over a decade, and my principal has barely moved. It's
Dude,
just
I used to
awful.
see horrible things with like car loans.
Oh yeah.
I never fell into some of the traps there, but they'll have these like car loans where the interest looks okay and the payments look really good, but then you've got this giant balloon payment right at the end. And if you don't have all the money for the balloon payment, you've put all this money into the car and they're taking it back.
Right.
So they can turn around and sell it again to the next chump.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of ways these companies get creative.
Well, for a while, it's not legal to do anymore, but like credit card companies would offer you, a credit card with extremely low interest as long as you kept it paid. And then if you didn't get that payment in, then you would, it would shoot up to some atrocious like 20% interest. And so
Yep.
then what they would do is they wouldn't send you any of the information on how to pay it until after your first payment was due. And that
Oh,
was
nice.
perfectly legal at the time. But I mean, seriously, that's just. I'm trying not to say the words that are coming into my head, but yeah, that's horrible. I mean, you're a kid, you get offered really great interest rates, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing the smart thing, and then, hey, how do I pay this? How do I pay this? How do I pay this? Oh, too late. Guess what? You owe 20%. Now here's how you can pay it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, and don't
This is
forget,
like,
there's late fees too.
of course, yeah. That's actually one of the reasons that I didn't complete my uh, college education was because yeah, I got into all kinds of credit debt and doing exactly that. You miss one payment and all of a sudden you go from 2.99 to 24% or something insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had
Uh,
to work more and go to school less.
how much interest is on student loans on the US?
It depends. Different places. Right now, my highest interest one is also the one I owe the most on, and it sits at about what was it, 6%, which
I
isn't.
think that's about average, 6 to
Yeah,
8.
and
Mm-hmm.
then some of them are as low as like 3%, 3%,
Mm-hmm.
4%.
And is there a restriction on what you can or cannot spend that money on, or does it? You
No.
just have to be.
There's a maximum amount that they will loan you, and it can go towards anything. I mean, my higher interest loans that are left, I got some of the more expensive loans, but the only way I was going to be able to finish school was if I didn't have to work as much. So what I
Mm.
would do is I would get the higher amount loans and then pay out my rent for 6 months to a year, and then I could just work towards, paying off food and sending the kids to daycare and all that, living, and go to school and not worry about it as much.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely paying it off longer than I was using it.
Yep. Which is the whole goal.
Yeah. Because the longer it takes you to pay off, the more you have to pay off.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Here in Hungary, there's sort of an organization that's one single organization when you would go for a student loan, and they have something called a Type 1 and a Type 2 student loan. So Type 1 is there's interest in it, you can spend it or anything, but Type 2 student loan has 0% interest, but you can only pay towards your tuition.
Well,
So
we
I would
have
take that.
zero interest student loans, but they're only zero interest while you're going to school. The interest doesn't start until 6 months after school ends, which gives you
Mhm.
time to find a job before you start paying it back.
Mhm.
But they definitely charge interest.
Oh yeah. And my partner,
Mhm.
who's actually a nurse, she went through that where she had I don't think it was zero, but it was a very low interest rate while she was in vocational school to become a nurse. But then, yeah, the bill comes due eventually. I mean, she filed for deferments and whatnot until she got picked up. But yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah, and I had a lot of help going to school. I mean, yeah, I got the loans, but I got lucky. When I finally got done with school, I only owed about like $25,000, which
Oh
is
yeah, that's not bad.
not bad at all compared to other people. But I
Mhm.
also had the Montgomery GI Bill, the Army College Fund, and then later on, when I was having trouble finishing school, because it took me forever to finish school because I was also working and raising kids.
Mhm.
So I went a little bit longer than it would normally take to finish school. I had the vocational rehab because I'm a disabled war vet, so they paid for my school and gave me a stipend, and I still needed more money on top of that.
Douche. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
tough. That's a lot of
Mhm.
responsibility too.
But
And
what?
did you do that online, Joe, or in person?
I did it at the University of Texas at El Paso.
Okay. So physically
Yeah,
showed up into
Mhm.
classes and all
yeah.
that. Okay.
What did you study?
Computer
You may
science
have.
and engineering.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, how common are scholarships there in the US? Because it's because
Scholarships.
so in Hungary the way it goes, there's for example, I wanted to if you want to study, for example, pro be a programmer developer, and there will be a certain number of people they would accept with a scholarship, which essentially means that okay, which essentially means that you don't have to pay, so that you get. For example, 6 semesters is a regular bachelor's degree here, and the condition is that you have to work within the country for a number of for some amount of time after you get your degree. But so yeah, I
I
think
think that's
and
reasonable. I would
yes,
take
but
that deal.
yes, but they also accept quite a large number of people. Like this, for example, I think it was like for a certain. I'm not sure what the word is. What's the word?
Well, I know here, at least it
Yeah.
used to be a bit of a
Okay.
meritocracy. So it depended
Mm.
on, say, how your GPA was in school, how you tested. You could earn different scholarships that
It's
way.
like
Mm.
the
Student
lottery here.
athletes,
It really is.
yeah.
Mm.
So it's easier to get a scholarship if you're
Mm.
basically ready to go pro as any sport, really. But
Mm.
even then, you got to be the best of the best. And
Mm.
then it is possible to get a scholarship with grades, but not if you did something like, join the military as soon as you got out of high school.
Mm. We have a sort of a generalize the scoring system. For example, most of the time when you apply to your university, they would calculate your score based on this system, and they have after a number of people, when people with the best scores, when they fill up the available spots, they just uh, have a cut-off score, and people below that score don't get in. But for example, this your grades in the final 2 years of school also uh, uh, can also increase the score. So that's the end of school, those exams that I mentioned. And also I mentioned, like, if you have if you've been to like competitions that are in school that were arranged by, yeah, yes, stuff like that. So also like having language examinations that you've done. And also it's a new thing, for example, if the number of time you serve in the military, in Hungary military, before after school and before you go to university, can also increase your credits, not credits, your score, depending on how much time you serve.
Well,
So
that makes
everything, yeah, so everything goes towards this generalized score. And you also, there are also like for example, the websites where you can calculate your people can calculate their income. So there's a website where you can calculate your score for depending
Well,
on what, yeah.
there
And
are other things that you can apply for here, like FAFSA if you're low income.
yeah.
Yep, I did that.
Yeah, I definitely used FAFSA as well. But that will basically pay your tuition. And it's interesting, it's also supposed to, give you a little bit extra for books or things like that. But every college I went to, every time FAFSA went up, tuition went up the exact same amount.
Oh yeah. And books, let's not forget that back in the day, prior to Chromebooks and all these other little, pieces of technology they're using now, books used to be an industry in itself.
Oh, yeah. And it's crazy. It still is because now instead of, physical books, they're selling one-time use codes to access the online information.
Of course.
So they're still making their money that way. But yeah, it's big businesses or big business for university professors to write their own book.
And the sad thing is you'd get these pointless revisions that would change a couple of chapters around. The core contents wouldn't change at all. And they just basically repackage the book in a rearranged format and
And
put
if
it
the
back out.
professor catches you using the old book, you're out of the class.
You're out, you betcha. Yep.
How can they do that?
Oh, they can do whatever the hell
Uh,
they want.
America, baby.
kick you out of the class for having the old edition of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they'd mandate that you buy the new issue. I mean, that's just how it was.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep. And then you go back
And
at the end and you sell your books back
Mm.
at the end of the semester and they give you pennies on the dollar
oh
for
yeah.
it.
Mm.
And then like college classes are designed to be retaken. They're designed to be failed the first time you take that class. So that way you have to pay for the entire class all over again. And then like they actually tried to make it easier to pass
Mm.
these classes by turning them into modular classes. So you'd have one class that was split into three portions that you would take all at once. And if you failed one portion, then you'd only have to retake that one portion. But that one portion costs just as much as the
Has the
entire
entire
class.
class. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I ever had to buy a book in order to complete a class here. It over here they're more like recommendations. Some professors would recommend their own books. Some people would recommend the books by other researchers that they know personally. There are some. Let me show you something.
This is unfettered capitalism at its
Yeah.
best. This is, the libertarian stance of we don't want government at all. Sometimes do need a little regulation.
This is allegedly the best organic chemistry book ever written in Hungarian. It's 2 volumes. Haven't read any of it. It was recommended, and I also heard that it is actually very good. And I plan to read at some point, but That's also I think sometimes they will recommend your book, and you can even manage to complete the class course without relying on the literature, because essentially if you know anything that has been covered in the lectures themselves, uh, you're practically good to go. And this is also the reason about this. It's it's really rare, and mm, in a way I felt good about being able to get them. I keep telling myself that I will read them one day, but
I think
it's
that the difference here is that in one case you have what sounds more like a nationalized system versus another that's
yeah,
privatized a bit more. And
yeah,
yeah, so this is more
mhm,
focused on extracting money from students
yeah,
over here. And over here you have people that
mhm,
are probably
yeah.
more worried about educating their
Mhm.
students.
Education as a whole is definitely mm, really nationalized in
Well,
Hungary.
you keep.
Of course, there are some private universities, but people usually tend to, for example, if they want to be like an engineer or a programmer, they would usually go and try the public universities first.
You keep
Yeah.
hearing things about eventually, somebody in the government is going to get rid of all these student loans because it's basically crippling your lower class. It really is.
I
And
don't know.
you hear also that universities are supposed to be going free or mostly free, or at least, community colleges are supposed to be going free, which they probably should be. And then your universities would charge, but only for, the second half of your college education.
Mhm.
But it never
How can
actually happens.
how can college education be completely free? Because even when
How is high
so
school free?
well, it was sponsored by the state, but
Right.
even the private universities where you get these scholarships, it's essentially the state paying for your tuition to the university, and if you don't complete the requirements, you don't work for a given amount of time after you get the degree, you have to pay back not to the university but to the state. So
Right.
it's if it's free if you comply, but it's still being paid by the state. So how would
Which
it
is a good way to do it.
Sure.
yes,
I
but
I wouldn't mind
would
some compulsory term of service in the U.S. I think it would be
Mhm.
good for 18-year-olds to actually participate in the government in general, whether that be the military or volunteering through AmeriCorps, or anything like that. Even if it's
mm,
volunteering to assist with
mm.
campaigns to your local governor.
Well, I wasn't really talking about something like this, or what are you referring to here?
Well, okay, I'm saying a way to make college free. Yes,
Mm.
everybody would have to pay
Aha.
for it with taxes or whatever, but
Mm.
it's better to educate your people and have a smarter community than it is to let people stay ignorant, which is a form of control. But that's a different subject.
But that's the keyword, control.
Right.
But when you said the community, did you say community colleges would be free?
I
But
think community colleges should be free for up to an associate's degree.
yes, but free means something else is paying for it. So how would it be paid by the state in
Yes.
that
Would
case?
Well, the
Yeah,
federal. I would say federal.
other. Yeah,
yeah.
yes, but but would have to be a condition like what we have here. So our condition is you can't go and work abroad immediately. You have to work for a couple of years in the country.
That's what I would say as well. But citizenship is
Yes, but to be fair, on American citizens, there's a way less pressure on going abroad than people in Europe when they're uh, lot smaller countries than the
Yeah.
US, and a lot more of
Geographically
them.
closer. Yeah.
And it's especially in Hungary where you can make a better living in most European countries that are far further to the west from us. So people are more and more young people with degrees want to go and work abroad. But the US is a big place, and you said if it would be federal, then moving from one state to the other to work doesn't really make a difference.
that's true. moving from one state to another doesn't make much of a difference. It does make a difference in if you're switching from a college in one state to a college in another state. Basically, you're starting over. But job-wise, yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's still all within the same country.
Yeah, and then you run into different issues with different states. Some states do have an income tax, some states don't, which, by the way, ties back to prohibition. That's
Some
a long
states
story.
have an income tax and a sales tax, which is
Right.
stupid. They're taxing your money twice.
Yes, but what I'm saying is in Hungary, the government is actually has to try to keep people from going to work abroad. But the US as a whole doesn't really have this problem because people are more likely to want to move to the US than move away from the
No,
US to work.
our problem, Robert, right now, honestly, is
Is
that we have a very, and this is my opinion only, but I have seen such a decrease in the level of competency in this country. It's insane. I went to a fast food restaurant just a few months ago and placed an order, and the kid that was running the register literally had to call somebody off of the food line to come over because he could not figure out how to hand me back 13 cents and change. That's a true story. He
I
could not
am
figure out how to count the coins.
not surprised in the least.
It blew me away. I thought it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad. It's to the point now, if I get what I considered standard service in the old days, now it's excellent service.
You like audiobooks. There's an audiobook that just with that sentence alone that you should read because something almost exactly the same happened in that audiobook, and it had to do
Oh,
with calculating taxes for a sale at a fast food restaurant. And the book is Damon. There's two books, Damon and Freedom, by Daniel Suarez.
Damon is in DAE.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, knowing Joe, I assume the same thing.
Damon and Freedom by who was it?
Daniel Suarez.
Daniel Suarez. I will give those a check.
Joe, how do you pronounce the Doctor Who story, The Daemons?
Damon's?
Damon.
Because it's written as DAEMONZ.
Well, then it's Damon's.
Okay.
Yeah, wasn't that an argument?
Oh, yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
that continue to be an argument?
Well, I know I'm right, so it's not an argument.
There it is. Definitive answer right here on the roundtable.
This is a two-part problem. One, the person who didn't manage to kind of change had very poor education, but it's also that the restaurant didn't really have high enough standards because they hired someone who couldn't calculate the change.
But that's the problem. If
It
this was an
wasn't.
isolated incident, then I would agree with that statement. But we're seeing this across the board.
My
This
whole.
isn't something rare.
It's not like he didn't know that it was supposed to be 13 cents. It said right on the screen he needed to give back 13 cents. The guy couldn't count to 13.
Right. He didn't know the combination of change that would equal that amount to hand it back to me.
So if I guess if they were all 1 cent coins, then he could have done it.
Maybe.
But yeah, because
Yeah.
what are the
You're giving him quite a bit of benefit of the doubt there.
what's the smallest coin you have? Is it 1 cent?
1 cent, yeah.
There's only 3 ways that you can make 13 cents.
Do you
Well,
have a
okay, there's 4 ways, but
Do you have a 2 cent coin?
no. We have a 1
So-
cent coin, a 5 cent coin, and a 10 cent coin, and a 25 cent coin, and a 50 cent coin, and a dollar coin. But you don't really see the 50 cent coin or the dollar coin in general circulation most
Yeah,
of the
they're
time.
fairly rare.
But is there a dollar coin?
There is, but you don't see it very often.
You see the bill much more often than the coin.
You know what's interesting? A while back, I saw a video by Casey Neistat who had to get a new wallet, and the first thing he did was he cut out the change pouch from it, and he said that no self-respecting man should have a change pouch in their wallet. But my argument for that in Europe we have a fairly large value coins. For example, we have the €1 and the €2, and the €2 coin is worth more than $2. And I heard anecdotes from about American tourists who would give out these €1 or €2 coins to beggars in the street. not realizing that how valuable they are, because I'm certain the same people wouldn't be willing to give a $2 bill to a beggar,
You'd be
but they just,
surprised.
oh, would they?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, two
Yeah.
$2 bills are actually a bit specialty as well, and you don't see them very often, so people collect them.
Yeah.
But a five, handing a five to a bum,
Yeah.
that's extremely
Wait.
common.
Wait, what's the highest value euro coin?
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, sometimes much to their detriment, I'm sure.
now I have to look it up. Oh, okay. So I think the €2 is the highest one.
But
I'm not sure. Sorry.
but yeah, I mean, what, a nickel and 8 cents, 13 pennies, two
Yeah.
nickels and 3 pennies, a
Yeah.
dime and three
Yeah.
pennies. Those are your choices.
Mhm. The nickel is so alien to me because we have 5, 10, 20, and 50 coins. We don't have a 25 coin. I mean, not the euros. I mean, the euros doesn't have, we don't have it either, but the Hungarian forint doesn't have a 25 coin either.
I manage, or I imagine that coins are probably, have a very finite lifetime at this point. I don't think that they're going to be around forever. I think there will
Well,
be, I mean,
okay, if the government really wants to control money, then what they'll do is they'll get rid of paper money. But
right.
they're not going to do that because it doesn't work as well overseas, and that is where a lot of our money is in circulation. Um, Now, I generally don't carry cash at all, so I never get change anymore because, well, I have a card, and that makes things a whole lot easier.
Yep.
Mm. There,
Well,
there are rare occasions where I do have to have change on me. The other day, I forgot to buy the public transport pass for this month, and usually what I do is there's the bus stop where I board the bus doesn't have the machine that gives out the tickets and the passes. So I would just take the bus with a student ticket that is fairly cheap, and when I go back to this station, there I would buy the pass itself from the machine. So I told the bus driver I wanted a student ticket, and I had a so the Hungarian forint is worth about, so I think around 300 forints is about $1. So I had a five. I had a 500 bill on me, and I asked for the student ticket, which is 125, and he wasn't able to give back change. But she should have been able to give back change. He said he spent his change on coffee, but I'm not sure because there's supposed to be a drawer with money on the bus, but he gave me back change out of his pocket. So anyway, I managed to buy another ticket, the bit more expensive, but he could give me back change. So there's no chance that you would be able to pay with a card in a situation like that. There's an e-ticket system being worked on, but it seems to be being worked on indefinitely because it never seems to be finished. I'm not sure if it's usable at this point, but
yeah,
you would just people who take the bus or a tram or a subway a lot, they just buy a monthly pass.
and if you go back to the mintCast episode where these guys were going on the Kevin Mitnick book, I mean, he makes a pretty strong
Yeah,
case
yeah.
for the cash, yeah, for anonymity reasons, of
I'm
course.
not surprised. I deliberately skipped that episode because I was at the time I was sort of binging my mintcast and I couldn't really fit in listening to the book in between episodes. So
Yeah, I
but
did the same.
yeah, I kept postponing it. I haven't read the book. I haven't listened to the book still, but I plan
Oh,
to, and I plan to, and I will go back to that episode and listen to it. I think I
yeah,
still have that episode downloaded on my phone.
it was a good episode and a good book too.
Hmm. But I'm not surprised that of all people, Kevin Mitnick has an argument for cash.
Right.
For
And if you listen
anonymity.
to Switch to Linux on YouTube, Tom, he's the same way. He doesn't use any cards. Now you can tinfoil
Hmm.
hat it if you want to, but yeah, I mean there's certain security in cash that you don't have on a card. You don't have to worry about someone, using a magnetic. What are those stripe readers or whatever, where they can send back
Hmm.
information and
You still have to worry about somebody picking your pocket.
that you do.
One of my pet peeves is that even if you pay with a card in a store, you still get a paper receipt. And then I go to this counter where I could put away what I bought, and there's a trash can below it. It's full of receipts. So people just take the receipt from the cashier and they throw it away immediately. When you buy something like a concert ticket online, you get a digital receipt via email. So why is that
Well,
you are able to?
it's
So you're
actually
able to.
not as common here. You have the option to have them print a receipt in like your stores, in like your convenience stores, your gas stations and stuff. But if I go to
Mm,
Home Depot or someplace like that, um, I have the
mm,
option to just have it emailed to me.
mm.
Right.
It's weird because over
Self
here I think it's
checkouts.
so. I think it doesn't matter in what form, but they have to give a receipt to you. And why is it that you can pay via card? And I assume it would be easy to have an email address at the bank associated with your card. So why couldn't they just send, even if you go to the corner store to buy
Well,
something for a couple of, why couldn't they just send the digital receipt? Why do they have to waste
if
the
they
money,
could if they could send
the
the
paper?
digital receipt to the bank and then have the bank send it to you, I would agree with that. The problem is that I don't want everybody having my email address every time I swipe
Mhm.
my card
Well,
because I
that's
get
what I
enough
said.
junk
That's
mail
why I
as it
said that.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, if the bank could serve as proxy in
yeah.
between you and the business, that's fine.
hmm So if the for every transaction I get a text notification and it has the name of the wait, what's the word? Uh,
Business?
yeah, the business that so if and I get the notification from the bank. So if through the transaction the bank is able to send me the name of the business, why wouldn't they be able to send me the receipt itself? The business doesn't have to get my email address for that. It's enough that the bank knows. So I think the infrastructure is there, but maybe it's that a lot of people still pay with cash. So I guess it depends on the store whether they want or not. It would be
What
worth
I'm
for them.
what I'm seeing a lot of, maybe even almost not quite to the level of card usage yet, but a lot of people using their phone to
Yeah.
pay,
It's
which is
actually
a little
more
scary.
common overseas. Well, how's it any different than a credit card? I
Oh,
mean,
it's not. I'm just saying
Mm,
that that comes with a set of conditions, just kind of like a card, all their own,
you,
that
you can
I'm a
set
little
that up.
leery of.
You can set it up on your phone right now using like Google Pay or Samsung Pay,
Right.
and the NFC on your phone,
yeah.
and you turn on the NFC and then scan it, and you're good after you use your
Mm-hmm.
thumbprint or sign in or
Mm-hmm.
whatever to the application.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just as secure as a physical card, maybe even a little bit more secure because most of the gas stations I go to don't check my identity, but my phone would.
Wait,
Right.
is it? Do they have to check your identity? Why are you saying this?
You, when I was working at 7-Eleven, we were required to check the ID of the person before we scanned the card. So you did have to compare and make sure that the name
Mm-hmm.
matched, specifically so that we weren't liable for fraudulent charges. But
Hmm.
now people don't do that. And yeah, I usually enter my PIN, but it is not required. You can just enter past that, and it'll treat your debit card like a credit card and automatically charge you anyway, as long as it's below X
Mm-hmm.
amount. And each
Yeah.
And
place is different on the X amount.
to that point as well, I used to work at a gas station years and years ago, and we'd need to not only, you'd match sometimes the ID of the person, but there was also a spot on the back of the card where the person would sign, and you needed to match the signature to the signature on the receipt and make sure it was at least within reason.
Mm. How common is using a credit card in the US? Because
Very.
at least I get the same impression, but I think over here it isn't that common. Because what you call a debit card, we just refer to as a bank card.
Yeah,
Yeah, same deal.
yeah.
Mm,
It's pretty common, but some of that is because people live on credit, and some people live on credit, and some of that is because people want a better credit score. And having a
Is
better
it?
credit score allows you to do things like buy a
Mm.
nicer car, buy
Wait,
a nicer house.
so you already have the social credit system that China is building,
Uh, Essentially,
technically?
probably, yeah. I
Yeah.
assume. I don't know the
Mm,
comparison, but yeah, it's a whole lot harder to buy a decent car if you've got a 450 credit score than it is if you have an 800 credit score.
Yeah, but if you don't use a credit card at all, then you don't have a credit score
If
at all,
you
right?
don't have if you don't have any credit history, then you have no kind of credit score. Yeah.
Then you are
Well,
then you don't do you would you have any disadvantage from that for buying a car, or is it just
Yes, you would have an
dude,
extreme disadvantage in that you would have to pay more upfront and a much higher
oh
interest rate.
that is
Much
and
that
let
is a
higher.
bit
me say,
that's
as
a
someone who experienced that exact situation, I bought a car after I'd wrecked my credit post college with a I don't know, it's like a 460, 470 credit score. I paid 14% interest on that car.
Which is nuts.
Huge. And now I'm, well over the 800s. I can get 0% sometimes if there's promotional deals. But I hover around about 2 to 3% interest now.
It's
So it's a
actually
huge gap.
it's actually really difficult to get over a 750 credit score. So that is exceptionally good. I mean, if
It's a
you're
long
over
time.
800, that's business class
Yeah,
credit score.
well, for whatever it's worth, I know Credit Karma is a little generous because it's always a few points higher than what it actually is.
Yeah.
But I generally hover around 820. But it took a lot of time of paying bills on time or early, making lots of purchases on credit to get to
I
that point.
actually had a whole bunch of stuff on my credit that wasn't from me.
Ooh,
Yeah, and it's not
oops.
necessarily maybe my identity got stolen, but maybe it was also the fact that me and my dad have the exact same name. So some of it was his, some of it was neither of ours. But I had to
how
pay somebody to go in and fight the credit companies to get these things removed, which
Mm.
put me in that in 750 to I've been as high as 820, but I usually sit closer to the 750 range in credit score.
Which is still good. I think that's still considered what B A credit B
Yeah,
plus right in
it's
there.
super good credit.
Yeah, so you're still good. I know the person at the credit union when I went in for my last vehicle loan said basically anything over 800 is for bragging rights.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't matter. If you're at 800, you're A plus credit. So anything in that range, 750 plus, I think, that's excellent credit.
this is the first time I ever heard about the credit scores
Oh yeah,
at
it's
all,
a whole thing.
and it's no it's a bit baffling for me. So you're saying that even if someone can afford not to use a credit card, they are still for pressured to do so because they would have in advantages in other
Yeah, you
fields.
can't get
Yes.
a home, you can't rent an apartment
Like,
without credit scores. You are very helpless in this
I'm
country.
sorry, but as a first impression, this sounds horrible.
It
well,
is
no, it
horrible.
is. It's a system designed to keep you in debt, and so
Right.
keep you paying interest so that people can make money for nothing. But
Uh,
Mm-hmm. One moment, gentlemen.
this might be the biggest negative thing about living in the US I've ever heard.
yeah, it's a debt-based system. It really
Yeah,
is, and
I
it's horrible.
I'm pretty sure the majority of people over here in in Europe or who want to move to the US at one point have no idea about this
Yeah,
because I would assume that the average person outside the US has no idea about this.
maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really easy to bomb your credit score, and
Mm-hmm.
like for me, it's a little difficult to maintain a higher credit score because I don't have a car payment. I'm not paying rent. The only real thing that I pay on each month is my
Mm-hmm.
credit card and my mortgage. That's the only thing keeping my credit score high.
Mm-hmm. We don't even call it a credit card. It's more like a loan card because the concept here is that if you don't have enough money for, you can use a credit card and you can pay it back later. But mm, it's not that common here. Maybe there's some sort of system like this, a scoring system, but it certainly doesn't. Your life certainly doesn't depend on something like this over here.
Well, your quality of life depends on it over here.
This is this is a bit okay. This is a bit similar to what China is doing, except there it's not about money; it's about behavior. But
Right.
it's
Well,
it's at the end.
imagine buying a $30,000 car, which is basically a low end car these days, I swear. But versus paying 3% interest over 14% interest, and how long it will take you to pay off, how many extra payments you have to make in order to pay off that car at 14% interest over 3% interest. Or
Mhm.
the more money you have to pay each month to keep it at 3 years that you're paying it off, or 5 years that you're paying it off. So that takes away that extra money that you're paying out, takes away from, being able to do things like eat
Mhm.
or take a vacation or buy
What's
nicer
that?
clothes. Oh, we're talking about the difference between paying 3% interest and
Mhm.
14% interest on a thirty
Mhm.
Oh,
thousand
I
dollar
mean taking a
car.
Okay.
vacation. Never done it.
Uh,
I
so
I
my
can't afford one.
question is,
Nope.
so let's say you don't use a credit card and you want to buy a car, and there's X% of interest on it. There's other person who uses a credit has a highest credit score
Hmm.
and can buy a car with a lower interest, but
Yes.
then he also had to pay more for as an interest on his credit, right?
No, no. Look at
So
me. I pay off my credit card each month,
so that
so
means
I'm paying zero interest on that.
It's only when
okay.
you carry the balance
Yeah.
Yeah.
more than a month.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
hope
so
is for
so
the
if you can manage to pay them on time, then there's essentially no, and you can buy a car for
well, it's
maybe,
not
let's say
just paying
maybe,
them on time.
yes, but
Um,
what else?
because if I were to just make the minimum payments on my credit card, then they would be collecting interest. But since I pay off the whole thing each month, I'm not
Mhm.
paying any interest.
So let's say if you
Yep.
are able to pay it off each month, and then maybe you have a high enough, can you manage to get a car for 0% interest if you have a high
Zero.
enough credit score?
No, I think the best I could get is probably a 3%.
Mhm. Okay. So what you're
Yeah.
saying is that if you manage to pay off your cards each month, then overall you have to you have you spend less money on things than if you weren't using credit card at all. But if someone is not fortunate enough and they have higher fees, then they end up paying a lot more than they would have to pay without the credit card.
Now, it's because the banks say that the person with the lower credit score or the lack of credit is a higher risk of not paying off. And so they're making more money from them by charging them more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
By deeming them a liability. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all again just a way to capitalize
Mm-hmm.
off the people.
I'm pretty sure if I were to do a search, there would be a number of YouTube videos that talk about stuff like this about living in the US.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's still I'm pretty sure the majority of people outside the US, or at least in Europe, had no idea about this. Well, it's like a game. It's a gamified
Well,
system.
I know that you've heard our
Yes.
conversations on how much it costs for medical,
Uh,
but medical is also one of those things I think you can't get rid of through bankruptcy anymore. But think about it. Getting how much do you think it costs to get an ambulance ride?
Oh, just an ambulance ride, regardless of what happens in
Not the
the.
treatment, not anything like
Oh,
that, just an ambulance ride.
uh, I would be very embarrassed if I was way off.
You're going to be way off, trust me.
uh, okay, 2000.
Okay, 2000 is a good starting point for some places. You're more likely to pay 4,000, and then if you have
Oh,
to have a specialty vehicle like my daughter did 15 years ago, um, it $15,000 for a 6 mile trip in a neonatal ambulance,
uh,
ooh,
or not a
that's
what?
neonatal,
rough.
yeah, a natal ambulance, or
Um,
yeah,
And just to
what?
throw
or a
in,
kids ambulance.
my daughter had to be airlifted, so she took a Metaflight let's see, by car it would be about an hour and a half trip. I don't remember what it took in helicopter, but we got a copy of that bill in, and thankfully she had insurance because that came in at a svelte $60,000.
And what
60,000.
For the
what was
trip to the
the
hospital.
Yeah,
what
and
was it?
that's again not the treatment. That's just the transportation from the hospital to another hospital.
Yes, but what was the time as opposed to the hour and a half this way?
Oh, I don't know what the in-flight time was. I can't. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the time she spent in the helicopter
Yes,
was.
but
But
it
significantly shorter than the
yeah.
drive.
Okay.
That when COVID first started, you started having people that were spending a month in the hospital, 2 months in the hospital, and coming out of it with multi-million-dollar bills that they can't get rid of and that they're going to be paying on for the rest of their lives.
Which is insanity. You cripple
So
a person for life that way. You really do, financially speaking.
so how is it that the US still doesn't have a free healthcare, universal healthcare?
Because as soon as somebody mentions free healthcare, somebody else starts
Socialism.
screaming socialism or communism.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's a huge, huge industry over here. To the point, I think we're the only country on earth that is allowed to commercialize medications. You know, we put them in advertisements. So
And
you have drug
No,
manufacturers advertising directly to the people
don't
via
get me
television.
no, we have
started
that.
on
We
the
have that as
drug
well.
industry and the horrible things that they do
Wait.
in order to make it so that you can't get a generic version of their medication.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not sure if it. I'm not sort of sure if they're allowed to advertise prescription drugs here, but there's a tons of advertisement on TV about like painkillers and yeah, and that
Uh,
sort of stuff.
but you still have to ask your doctor about it. It's the same thing here. You still have to
Uh,
ask the doctor.
Yeah.
every single advertisement on TV, and I think also on radio, or maybe also printed, uh, about drugs and medicine has to end with the same sentence in TV, even outspoken, that translates as uh, about it says about risks and potential
We have
side
the same
effects.
thing.
Yeah, you either ask your doctor or read
Yeah, we get that too.
the
They
thing. Yeah,
list off all
so
the side effects and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah,
And
but
They
and
flash
over,
up on the screen for an eighth of a second.
yeah, yeah,
right.
but over here it's a standardized phrase that is almost the same word by word every time.
Yeah, no, they list off the individual side effects. And just kind of a counterpoint here. Back in the old days of the United States, before insurance agencies existed, doctors would actually come make house calls, or you'd go see your doctor and you'd pay direct. And when you cut out that insurance middleman, you could actually afford to pay your doctor a reasonable price. But because insurance companies are now involved, the prices have become massively inflated.
And the more insurance gets involved, the more inflated it gets. And
Yes,
it's not necessarily a matter of greed, it's a matter of some people don't pay, so that they use that
right.
as an excuse to push prices up. But then the drug industry is completely different because they will arbitrarily raise prices on things that people need to survive simply because people need them to survive. I mean, a
Mhm,
bag of salty water, which is all saline is,
mhm.
$700?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Or
crazy. Aspirin that costs $60 for a pill in the hospital that you could get a whole bottle of for $5.
or the insulin, which has been around for more than 100 years. Don't ask me the exact time frame that insulin has been around, but it's been
That's a
around for a
great example.
long time, and
Yep.
people need it monthly to survive. And the prices that they're charging, $3,000 a month for a supply, $4,000 a month, more, I assume, and it's insane.
It is. It's out of control. And
As
we've
long as it's been around and you can't get a generic that costs next to nothing,
yeah.
What's the average monthly income of middle class? U.S. citizen.
Monthly income, I think.
Just so I can have
Okay.
a frame of reference for this $4,000.
Um. Well,
I know
okay.
in 2013, the median
What is it?
income for a household, okay, this is not a
Median.
single person. Yeah, this is
That's
median.
heavily
So
skewed.
this is middle, or supposedly. But
Okay.
in 2013, I heard this recently, it was right around $50,000
Mhm.
per household. So
Now,
everybody
that's
working.
usually two
Okay,
people
so
working. Now,
Yeah.
the minimum wage is what, 7.25 right now?
God, in California, it's gone up to, I think, 15.
Well, yeah, but the federal
Oh, federal, yeah. I haven't looked in a
minimum
while. That's why we
wage
pay,
uh,
$20 for a
7.25.
mhm.
hamburger meal out here.
Okay, $7.25. And then you're lucky if you get 40 hours a week. And that's 290, and let's just say 52 weeks in a year, 15,080. And then divide that by 12, you're looking at $1,256 a month for someone
Unlivable.
that makes
Wait,
minimum wage.
wait.
Yeah.
Repeat that. How much?
$1,256 a month for someone on minimum wage.
But what if they have diabetes?
Then they hopefully can get Medicaid.
Medi-Cal or
Yeah, Medicare, Medicaid, insurance through work. Although it's difficult to get insurance when you have pre-existing
Mm.
conditions,
Right. So,
but
and
that
if you're
takes
working
away
minimum wage.
yeah.
like half their income.
Right.
As you may have guessed, I'm maybe out of touch. Is the Medicare the same thing as Obamacare? And just
Yeah,
renamed?
no. Um, Obamacare is a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, especially when
We're
it first came out. But
we're caught in like this really strange kind of purgatory or something. I mean, it's kind of there's still pieces of Obamacare in place, but it's not full
the,
nationalized health care. There's still a lot of privatization here.
when
So we're kind of getting the worst of both.
when Obamacare came out, you were legally required to have Obamacare, but the
Or get
lowest
fined.
level or get fined. But the
Right.
lowest level of Obamacare cost like $19,000 a year, and if someone was
Yeah.
making $15,000 a year, guess what?
Right. And I was among those, by the way, that got fined because my partner at the time didn't have a job, so she didn't have insurance, so she was an uninsured adult. So guess who got to pay that out of their tax return?
You.
Yeah. So we still had no insurance for her, and we lost money. We were poor.
But if you
So,
are making $15,000 a year, you can get food stamps, which helps. You can
yeah,
get subsidized health care, which helps. And then you also get more money on your tax returns, which helps. But when your tax return ends up being a third of your income for the year, something is wrong.
right.
Mm.
A lot of things are wrong.
Somewhere, it was probably a Reddit comment section. I read a comment about it made the argument that it's true that there's no free universal healthcare in the US, but if you have proper insurance, you're almost at the point where it might as well be free. So how true is that?
Run that by me one more time because I don't think I understood what
Yeah,
you just said
yeah.
there.
So basically,
Mm,
it was arguing, trying to explain a comment why the US doesn't have universal free healthcare, and its argument was that if you have a proper insurance, then it doesn't cost you much. It doesn't cost you a significant amount. How true is that?
No,
no, no.
insurance has nothing to do with college.
Oh,
If you have a low enough income, then technically there are ways to help pay for your college.
no,
Like,
not college
oh,
healthcare.
okay, yeah, if you're low enough income, no, even then, even if you have the government insurance, they're only willing to pay the average rate or what they consider to be a fair rate. And most of your
Mm-hmm.
hospitals charge more than that. And so you're responsible for everything that's left over. So if
Right,
because they tried to come at us with this, so if a ambulance ride costs $15,000 and the national rate is $2,000, then I would be liable for $13,000 of ambulance trip.
Which adds another ramification to this whole thing. A lot of doctors will not accept that as insurance any longer. They won't take you as a patient if you're trying to pay with the federal, coverage.
Now,
That they'll just say we won't accept you as a patient.
that's accepting as a patient. Now, legally,
Right.
if you are dying on their doorstep, they have
They
to
have
take
to
you
take
in
you.
and treat
Yeah.
you, but they're going to charge you the full amount.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that person who can't pay doesn't pay, and then that goes back to Joe's point. Then the insurance goes up because even though they write it off, really, they're saying that, well, we have so many people each year that don't pay their hospital bills, so guess who has to make that up? The people that do pay. So it's kind of a very circular process, and it's just I don't think it's good for anyone. But that gets into a very heavily politicized conversation. A lot of people oppose single payer because, again, socialism, communism, all that gets brought up, and some
That's
people,
that's a that's a that's a very childish argument. Socialism.
It
well,
is.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
No,
our roads are socialized. I mean, right?
well, there's also the fact that on paper, when communism was invented, it was intended to be a good thing, but it was never good in practice.
that's the whole thing. Is
Yeah,
that yes, it's good on paper. It does really look good on paper. The benefit of everyone. The problem with that is you always have people that are going to take advantage of it
yeah,
and
but
put themselves in positions of power and give themselves better roles, make themselves better off in that whole system. But you get the exact same thing in a capitalist system. So, but
mhm,
that's for like pure communism. But having something like socialized medicine and socialized education, which we already have a form of socialized education, is to the benefit of all.
Yeah. Yep. And fun
yeah,
fact, when America was actually just being founded, when the Puritans came over, they attempted to set up a socialized system where everybody would reap the benefits, say, as farmers. You would all come together and share crops, and all that. But what they found was that certain people pulled their weight, and other people said, well, why should I do that when Dave over there is producing all this food and I can sit on my laurels and not do it?
Yeah,
Right? I can just reap the
there's
rewards.
always
So
going to
you
be
had,
people like that.
yeah, the freeloaders. So that's the problem they ran into.
mm.
And eventually socialism was abandoned.
But when it comes to education, would you rather be surrounded by stupid people or would you rather be surrounded by smarter people?
I would maybe is both an option.
Well,
Being,
honestly,
being,
I would prefer to be around educated people. Obviously, there's always going to be people that lack common sense. There's
Then let
always
me apologize. I'm bringing down the score over here,
eh,
ruining the curve.
maybe a silver lining be surrounded by people of various backgrounds and education, but not have too many uneducated people, but not have too many overly smart people either.
Well, it's true. There's that old adage that we need ditch diggers too, right? You have to have
you
people
can be a
participate in the
smart
manual labor.
you can be a smart ditch digger.
Mm.
Right. Excellent point.
So I'm going to say something, a take on this, and I want you to tell me whether it's unreasonable or not. So, if an educational system would be improved enough that the number of people who can get a proper education would increase, and at the same time you could uh, have have a lot more physical labor replaced with robots, then the people who would need those jobs would now be able to do more mental work, which is an ideal. I think it's an ideal.
You know what? Those
Yeah.
ditch digging robots need somebody to maintain them.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So ideally, you would ideally every country should strive towards this.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's actually already been done, right? During the Industrial Revolution, we
Yeah,
saw that. We
yeah,
saw mechanics.
look
You know,
at Europe
yeah,
right now. They have a severe lack of truck drivers, right? It's almost crippling from what I've seen on the news, the lack of truck drivers. So you get these automated trucks on the road. I know that they've been tested out for like 5, 6 years now, maybe longer. I don't know. But that solves that problem. And then you still have to hire people to program those trucks, make sure those trucks are doing what they're supposed to, unload those trucks, load those trucks, and all these other things that they can be doing. Repair those
yes, but
trucks, keep them running, etc., etc.
yes, but having a shortage of drivers doesn't mean that you would have a shortage of people who would be programming the trucks, because
right.
programming is an increasingly popular field.
Yeah. Well, you get what I'm saying. It's still there's still jobs there, even though
Yeah,
the
yeah,
job is not truck driver.
Yeah,
But it solves
yeah,
the problem
yeah.
having those
that's true. I
automated
mean,
vehicles.
Yes,
there
but
are always going to be people that, let's face it, some people are born just, random genetic lottery. Some people are born with the ability to do those types of jobs, but there are people that are born that are going to, inevitably end up as low skilled labor.
yes, but there's also somewhere in the middle the people who would be able to do those kind of jobs if they would have a chance to get better education that they can get. And I
Yeah,
would
and there are
add
some people that just
yes,
lack
but
ambition.
mm,
Yeah,
uh,
it's a
yeah,
difficult problem that I don't know how to solve it. I mean, I'm a truck driver. That's what I do.
Well, there's nothing
And
wrong with being a truck driver. It is a good
right.
job to have, but
Well,
I still think automation would be better.
yeah.
do they
Oh, agreed.
mm, is there still a lot of chatter over the radio like in the old times, or was that just in movies nowadays?
Oh,
Sure,
you're
there
talking
is
about
using
the
the radio.
news? Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's still out there. It's not as prevalent as it was with the advent of the cell phone, of
yeah,
course, and whatnot.
yeah.
But
Nowadays you would just join a truck driver Discord group or Telegram
it's
group.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they still have CBs that you and their own kind of verbal communication on the road, but it's not like you see in the
Mm.
movies. No.
So it's not like you can find one in a second in every other truck.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
won't find it in every truck. You'll still get some guys that do it. Just I think more for the nostalgia than anything, but they do
Yeah.
use it as a legitimate way to
Mm.
communicate. Like one
And
personal
you
radio, hey,
also
there's highway patrol up ahead or whatever, to give the driver a warning to watch his speed.
you also
Mm.
have a thriving ham community, which would also be the guys talking to the truck
Very true.
drivers.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, radio based stations. Yep. So
Mm.
whole lot of messes. So whenever you're ready to come over here and solve it all for us, Norbert, we're
Now,
waiting.
I assume you do local truck driving though, not long haul.
I haven't done long haul in terms of 48 state. Now I
Mm.
have done into Nevada. That's as far as I've gone. But currently, well, for the last 16 years, I've been with the local garbage company. So
Mm.
I'm a garbageman. So yeah.
Joe, do you have any way to approximate what percentage of the mintCast listenership is from the US and from outside the US or outside of America?
Nope.
Because this was such a nice conversation. It might be interesting to consider like as a show topic. Everyone would talk about maybe cultural or everyday stuff. So the place where they live. I mean, I would assume if there are a lot of listeners from the more interesting for me or maybe Nishan to talk about, but what you've been saying today but it was interesting for me, and also maybe some cultural stuff of Texas, because as much as people tend to know that Texas is the biggest state, and I don't think a lot of people know much about Texan culture over here.
I'm not exactly a native Texan.
No. Mm. So yeah, so there's not really a way to estimate how the demographic distribution of listeners. We could have a poll. We should have a poll where people would be submitting where they are from and stuff like that.
Now, these conversations can, obviously tend to get pretty long-winded, so we might end up just boring people to tears too if they're
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
for
and
tech talk.
us being a technology podcast, it's one thing for us
Yeah.
to talk about this on
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
secondary show as opposed to our primary show.
Yeah, as interesting as it
Mm.
is.
Maybe we could try recording these roundtables as well, and not in a strict manner, and not to be
We could turn
published.
these into an HPR,
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Hacker Public Radio.
Oh, okay.
They have their own RSS feed, but I'm sure those guys over there would love for us to package this up and put it on there just to give them some more content.
Oh, so the Hacker Public Radio is more like a platform for people to so
Just look it up, HPR.
okay. Well, I'm not saying that we should, because these are more improvised streams. But whenever there's a topic that's interesting enough, we could have those edited. And when nothing much happens, we could just discard the recordings.
Yeah, well,
Or we could always just edit the audio from YouTube if it's good enough.
yeah, that's what I would say. Just pull the audio from this and package it up and give it to them. Now, generally, they don't want any content that you've done on another podcast or anything like that put out there. But considering that we're not putting this on an RSS or anything like that, I think
Yeah,
we
and
might
yeah,
be okay.
Yeah, I think Tony, he used to
yeah.
have
Yeah,
some work on
he still
Does it
does.
HPR.
have to? Does it
Oh, he
have to be
still does? Oh, okay.
Does it have to be tech related to be accepted?
No,
No, I think it's pretty much any topic flies.
Oh,
it
I think that
generally ends up being, tech related, but it does not have to be.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
Like here's
Indeed.
one HPR 3464 called Being Irrational.
Yeah.
The importance of our irrational mode of thought.
hmm,
Yeah, it might be something to look into, Norbert, since
mm,
you do video and now audio editing.
mm.
Might
Wait,
be
so
something of interest.
Hacker Public Radio? You mean
Yeah,
itself? You
I
mean?
dropped the
Mm,
link in general.
Yeah.
okay.
And a matter of fact, I'm gonna give you some audio on the HPR New Year's show that we're gonna tack on to the end of each of our shows for the rest of the year.
Mm, what does it
It's
contain?
just an ad for the Hacker Public Radio New Year's show.
Oh,
Give them a bit of
uh,
promotion.
Yeah.
mm,
And then I'll be on there. I'll be inconsistently on there, but it's just through Mumble, and it's a 36-hour show or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
mm.
you drop in, you talk to some people from all around the world, and then you drop off and get back on and all that jazz.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Mm. So I'm on the website, but I'm trying to figure out how to get the list of shows. There's a menu that says get shows, but then there's so is Hacker Public Radio itself the show, or is it? And is there just one feed for it, or
Yeah,
can you?
there's actually ways to I haven't done it in a while, but there's ways to like subscribe to specific show hosts, which is why
Mhm.
there are show host numbers.
Oh,
But
right.
I don't even know how to get the RSSs anymore. But yeah, I am set up to at least view every single show that they put out, and then I choose which ones I download and listen to.
From what I'm seeing here, the latest ones, they tend to be fairly Linux oriented.
Yeah,
A
well
number of them.
that's because it's only nerds that do recordings.
Living in a terminal.
Yeah, only nerds use Linux, right? At least for now. Yeah. All right, so we're all set for fragmentation as being our topic then, correct?
Well,
Is that what we're going with?
yeah, it's good. And I may or may not have some more things to say about Arch regarding that matter.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'm ready to defend Arch.
I was only talking smack about Arch
Yeah,
because
but
Bo
yeah,
is using
okay.
Arch.
Okay.
As long
Have
as
you
you
ever-
follow it up with, by the way, after you say Arch.
Or
It has
precede it
to
with,
be
by the
done.
way.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I use Arch. Did you guys know?
Oh, by
Do
the
you?
way.
By the way, yeah. By the way, I dual boot Arch with Debian.
Do you?
Oh, so you're an Arch user.
No.
I may not have. No, okay, I may or may not have back to Arch in this
Hey, you
those
might
past
be a
week on my
Linux
phone.
user, but I'm an Arch user.
Yeah.
Different. See?
Yeah.
I know if you're using Ubuntu, you're definitely not using Linux. That's new Ubuntu. Sorry, you just can't use that. Or Mint. Yeah.
What about Chrome OS? Because someone posted a new 2021 list of best Linux distros for beginners article, and it listed I think it listed
Look,
Ubuntu. It listed Chrome OS. So is that
Chrome
a valid?
OS, much like Android, uses the Linux kernel. But the major difference is that with most of your Chrome OS, like laptops, tablets, things like that, you can actually do some hackery and either get it to run natively run Linux applications, or you can make that thing just plain run Linux. So I will give those Chromebooks their due and say, yeah, they're close enough to a Linux machine to qualify.
I mean, just Chrome OS itself. Would it qualify as a Linux distro? Because
I can't hear
think
you, little girl.
Your dog was trying to convince me they should be fed at 4 o'clock.
Well, let them outside then.
I did, and
Okay.
they're just standing there.
Now they're just standing there and saying that they're hungry. I feel bad for them. They can wait until 5 o'clock.
I'm standing here hungry too. We're sitting.
So I read
where's my
somewhere that
support group?
Chrome OS was a fork of Gentoo, which itself completely qualifies as being a Linux distro.
Well, I think
So-
what you're seeing is there's a split from the like GNU desktop utility people.
Yes, but even like something like, so for example, Alpine Linux doesn't use GNU at all, but it still is a Linux. It still qualifies as a Linux distro because it's when you run it's. So basically, when you run Alpine Linux, it is a package manager. You do almost everything like you would do on.
It uses
In
the
a-
Linux kernel, and that's all Linux is the kernel.
Yes.
So
So if Chrome OS uses the Linux kernel, then does it qualify? And it's a desktop system because you could install it on a laptop or desktop, so it qualifies as a Linux distro, I guess.
Sure.
yeah. And technically Android does too, because you can install Android x86 on a desktop system.
I just thought about trying that on my tablet today because, yeah, basically, when it comes to Linux desktop environments, I'm limited to, if I want to use it without a keyboard, I'm limited to GNOME. So maybe if I should give it the Android x86 a try.
I think that it's not, because it's not designed with a desktop paradigm in mind, as you know, being a first class citizen, a lot of people say it's not real great on the desktop, but you know, I don't know, it might be worth a try.
I mean, in the convertible laptop / tablet, it might be.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, there's Android tablets, so why not?
So I assume the Android x86 project doesn't have any of the Google services.
I'm not sure.
Don't know. I've never used it.
Because I read it's an unofficial port, because there's no official port of Android to x86.
You can still add the Google services, I'm sure.
But I'm not saying I would want to. I could also sideload
Yeah.
APKs.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be something you could you try out and then discuss on the show.
Yeah, we can discuss whether or not Android qualifies
Mhm.
as a Linux distro or Chrome OS qualifies as a distro.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I have some ideas that I want to share on the show itself that about Arch that tie into the fragmentation topic very well. So I'm happy about this topic. I mean, I just mentioned the last show that I was using EndeavourOS, so it might be too soon for me to mention that I distro hopped from it to back to Arch already because, well, I had some NVIDIA issues on Endeavour, so that's why I wasn't using it on my desktop. And then I realized that.
All right,
So
guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just got a
Okay.
message. I got to get going.
Okay.
Which means
Okay.
I got to end the stream.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll see y'all
So-
later. Thanks for those that stuck around through the rambling.
Yeah. So next Saturday we do the preparations, news and such, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
Think that'll work.